friends, this is Yuri Nishenko from the Voice of Pilgrim Radio, and tonight we have a testimony from Evan's Christmas. Last name Christmas, pretty good one. Yes, we're doing, this is yet another testimony. We're in South Africa right now on Kwesizabantu mission, and Evans, so you, well, I guess you start from the beginning, but real quickly, just for the listeners and viewers, you came to Kwesizabantu because
I had a problem with drugs. I was an addict. Final stage in my life, I ended up on heroin. I ended up on the streets.
And coming here, God delivered you from it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's what the testimony is going to be about. So, tell me about your family and how you grew up and what led to your poor choices.
Well, my upbringing wasn't one that was, how can I say, as most children. At the age of 6, my father was arrested for murder. He was appearing for hijacking case. The magistrate was supposed to try him for his murder. For trying for the hijacking, he shot the man 5 times blank. The morning he was supposed to appear for. A year later I got arrested. I was 6 at the time. The incident was something quite traumatic for me. However, I don't know what it affected me so much. It only played out later in the later stage of my youth. At the time which he left, it was myself being the eldest and my 2 younger siblings. My mother was 22 at the time.
Your mother was 22.
She was 22 at the time.
And you were the oldest?
I was the oldest. I was 6 at the time. My younger brother being 4 and a half. My sister was just 11 weeks old. We had about a baby.
And again, if I could ask you to talk a little slower and clear, because our viewers,
okay,
Americans.
No problem, no problem. So, most of my childhood, I grew up without a father. And this I found hard because both myself and my brother, we were bullied, we were taken advantage of, we were taken for granted. And there's only so much that my mother could do. As much as she tried her best to be both a mother and a father, she was unable. She had to work most of the time to provide for us, so she couldn't spend as much time as she'd liked with us. So my grandparents raised us most of the time. Unfortunately, they were alcoholics, so they drank most of the time, and often we'd go months without lights, without water, because they drink out the money, even not the money which my mother put into the house. Growing up throughout our childhood, I was the better one out of the two, was between my brother and myself, because I chose to make better decisions. Because at the time, I thought that no, it was my place to do the right thing. Unfortunately, at a later stage, it changed. Mother left my father when I was 12. She fell in love with someone else. He was good to us in the beginning, and I took towards him because I never knew what it like to actually have a father in my life. Unfortunately, he was an addict as well.
Drug addict.
He was a drug addict, but he was working quite well at the time, so no one noticed. Along the line, he lost his job. Things were a bit ugly, and he started to become abusive. He physically abused my mother, my younger brother, my sister. However, me, he'd never lay her hand on me because he looked at me and he saw my father. But we went on like that from the time I was 12 to, let's say, I was 16. I was staying with my auntie and my uncle. I was doing my grade 10 at the time. My family had moved to a different place. In Units East, it was a kind of township where I had grown up. My mother chose to move and go stay in Sydenham, a different area.
Sydenham?
Sydenham. It's more of a suburban area. I chose to stay, but I didn't want to go with them. I stayed with my auntie and my uncle, who were pastors in the area. I stayed with them for about a year and a half. That stage is when I had my first encounter with the Lord. And from grade 9, really making it to pass, grade 10 I ended up at Duxbury School.
So you said at what age you had your first
16,
encounter?
I'd say 16.
At 16, first
Yes.
encounter with the Lord.
Yes.
Can you explain that? What is it?
Well, initially there was just church attendance, and then they preached one service and it touched my heart, and immediately within me I felt a desire to change it, to put away this old life and started to rely on God more. and I'd ask for his help, for his direction, going forward in decision makings, and I started to become easier to do the right thing. Even with my studies, they done a teaching once about how the Holy Spirit, He knows everything, He knows all, and that if you ever find yourself stuck in a situation, you should ask God to help. And this is where I found myself with regards to my studies, because, like I'm saying, I barely passed my grade 9.
Barely passed.
I barely passed my grade 9. So yeah, I was grade 10. Because my uncle was a teacher in the school, he asked him to put me in the science class. That was maths, pure maths, science, physical science, life science, geography. Not too sure how the subjects are classed back where you're from, but over here that would be the A class, or the more intellectual of the students. So he asked him to put me in the class because he said he was aware of my potential. But like I'm saying, I barely passed my grade 9. So many times I find myself sitting with my books and stuck, and that's how Holy Spirit teach me, help me. And not like I say I had an audible voice or anything, but I just find myself in my mind, page back here, and I walked through everything. And end of the year, I became the top of the school. So anyway, God had done a work in my life at that time, but I long to be back home with my mother. I miss my mother, I miss my siblings. I went and I saw them one New Year's Eve, and she begged me to come home. My stepfather as well, so he promised that things would be different, that things would change. And unfortunately, I chose to go back home, and nothing had changed. It just gotten worse. The area which we were Slavic, which we were staying in, my mother was staying in at the time, there was a local gang which I'd heard of, and I heard how they were killing people, robbing, and how they'd come off their court cases. They never saw jail time because they bribed the complainants.
Because of what?
They bribed the complainants. They paid them off.
So there was a gang, they were robbing and killing, but they never saw jail time.
They never saw jail time.
Because they bought the justice.
Yes, correct. And as much as a lot of people may seem to feel that I joined the gang for different reasons, I know what was in my heart at the time. I loved my mother dearly, and I couldn't take me to see my mother getting bashed up and down, and I felt completely helpless. And at that point, I also felt like, you know what, like God wasn't there for me. Because for so many years, I prayed and I wanted this to end, but it wasn't ending. So I gave up on God at that point. And I thought to myself, no, if I join these guys, I could earn their trust. Maybe one night, there'll be a night, just my stepfather beat my mother, and I'll be able to call him, and they kill him. So I joined them. I started hanging around with them.
But if you had an encounter with the Lord at age 16, and, was that genuine repentance?
I'd say at the time, yes, it was genuine. However, I wasn't willing to wait. The waiting became too much for me, for my stepfather to come out of the picture, because God's time and our time is not the same thing.
But you still had a grudge against your stepfather.
I didn't actually have a grudge against him, I'd say. I wanted the abuse to stop. I wanted us to live like a normal family. And I felt at that time, and maybe my feelings were wrong, but to me at the time, it felt like God was taking too long to work. So I chose to rather take it into my own hands.
So you decided to join that gang that you knew was a bad gang.
I knew what I was doing, yeah.
Just to be accepted, respected, and have maybe even kill your father.
Maybe, possibly, if they could come and they could take him out. That was behind the decision that I made. A foolish one that I made. But at the time, I suppose, overcome by emotion and so forth, a bloody decision that I was making. Long story short, there came the night, which you could say was my initiation night. I had to prove myself if I was truly one of them. And there was someone walking past, and they said to me, well, if you're one of us, then you'd rob him. You'd help us rob him. And I did. So I was about 16 and a half at the time.
16 and a half?
16 and a half, just about to turn 17. I got locked up the first time. Charge of robbery with aggravation. It was robbery with aggravation, just normal assault. We took a phone, we took money. We just sold the phone later that evening, and as it be the gang culture, whatever they do with the spoils of what the crime is, there's no such thing of you take your cut, you take your cut. We work together. So if you're gonna buy drugs with this money, we track the money together. If you're gonna buy alcohol with this money, we'll drink this money together. We do the same thing. There's no such thing as you take your portion, you do what you want. We spend the money then and there. And they both crack cocaine. And the guys were smoking and they offered me it. And they asked me if I wanted and I said yes, just to show that I was in with the clip. One of them actually said no, don't give it to him because he's gonna end up in the same similar situation as us, he'd end up stuck. But I insisted. So they gave it to me. That was the first night that I smoked crack cocaine.
So, but you didn't have to smoke crack cocaine for them to be part of that gang?
I didn't have to, no.
But you insisted?
I insisted, yes. Time progressed, and whenever they get paid, because some of them did work, they'd sell drugs, they'd rob, and they'd steal at the same time. So the love between doing the right thing on one stage, so there was a cover-up, you can say. So everyone had a legitimate job, everyone sold drugs, and everyone done crime as well too. So if at any stage, if the police were to come and they couldn't account for the money, they had legitimate ways to say, well, no, I work here, A, B, C, and D, here's my bank statements and so forth. So whenever there'd be a big loss of money, or if someone would get paid, they'd buy drugs, and obviously I'd smoke with them. So that's how the addiction started to grow over time. Time went on, and more court cases. Long story short, I learned the ways to restrict myself. And then I started to be able to rob, to steal, to stab, to hurt people on my own. And then Christmas, a year later, Christmas Eve I think it was, I stabbed my stepfather and nearly killed him.
You what?
I stabbed him.
With a knife?
With a knife, actually I had 2 blades at the time. He phoned me to come home. Came and he fetched me about 3 o'clock in the morning. And he was drunk under the influence and he started to assault my mother. And he was chasing around the house with a knife. And I asked him to stop. And he refused. He hit me as well. But I was still so fearful because I'd done nothing. But eventually I said a switch in my head tripped and I blanked out and I attacked him. The police came, no charge was laid because there was a history of domestic violence and so forth, at the police station. So they knew very well what it was all about. So they just told me to leave the home.
So they justified your action as a self-defense?
Yeah. No one heard you. Yeah, so they let me go. So I was just asked to leave the home. About a week later, my mother asked me to come back home. It was hectic because I slept in one bedroom and he slept in the other. And bearing in mind, this man was an ex-soldier, so he was a trained killer. So I'd sleep with my knife under my pillow because I always thought at any point this man would be able to come in and kill me. But unfortunately, by this time, it looked like I'd achieved my goal. That's why I wanted to become the monster that I became. But it did become part of who I was at the time. So I continued to rob, to steal, to drug, to hurt people. And the name, the fame, the thrill of being infamous, of being feared, alighted. And I said that was my initial addiction. It wasn't actually the drug. It was that of doing the wrong thing, of being the bad guy. That was before the drugs came into the equation. Time progressed in my matric year. I was appearing on a charge of attempted murder, robbery with aggravation. There were 2 witnesses for the case. My co-accused, a third witness against me. The complainant had full-blown AIDS, which I found out later on. Obviously, there was a scuffle, so I was also injured. Then I also found at the time that my girlfriend was 3 months pregnant. So I was sitting now, looking at 15 years. I already called my father. My baby was waiting for me in Westwood Prison. He was waiting to receive me. Or even if I didn't see jail time, there was a possibility that I was HIV, AIDS, which I was positive. there was a possibility I could have infected my partner at the time and conceived a child with the virus. So the stress of that day from my mind, it was too much to bear for me. So I barely went to school. I'd sleep weeks on end, just get up to just use the toilet. So either I'd sleep, or when I had money, I'd drink, or I'd drag myself into a state where I didn't want to be sober anymore because the situation at the time was too much for me. So the addiction progressed thereafter. I failed my matric. Fortunately, I came off that case out of lack of evidence after a year and a half.
So for a year and a half you've been tried?
I was on trial for a year and a half. The courts actually said they waited for me to come of age, because a lot of my court cases, I was let off because I was a juvenile. Because like I'm saying, I started with crime from the time I was about 16. So from the distance between 16, 17, 17 and a half in a space in a year, I come for many charges of GBH, assault, attempted murder, robbery. But because I was a minor and because I was still in school, the court was always lenient on me. At that final case, they waited for me to come of age because it wanted to try me. Eventually, it didn't happen, so I started to work thereafter at a local workshop. Wasn't earning much. It was enough to start saving up, buying things because there was a baby on the way. But it was also enough to drug as well, so and it progressed like that there. I just work until I get paid on a Friday and I go and have a party. I'd go drink and I'd go drug. And also some of the guys who were with me in school at the same time as well too, they all started to work as well now. So now there was always money now. We had our own money now to drink, to drug, going forward. Long story short, we went on Addict or crack cocaine for about 5 years. 5 or 4 years. A similar routine with every job. I'd get fired because of blanking, not going to work, because I'd smoke too much and I'd be too paranoid to go to work. Or I'd smoke to a point where I don't have bus fare. Or I'd commit a crime and I'd be ducking the police, so I can't actually be on the public roads. And then I'd sit at home for a couple of months. By force, I'd become clean now because I couldn't leave the home. I didn't have access to drugs or to money. And then those around me would think, you know what, Evan's making a change, and they're trying to help me build myself up again. I'd get a job and I'd go back to the same thing. Eventually I got to a point where my mother was tired of me. She opened a charge of housebreaking and theft. I came home one evening. I'd given her some money towards the house for my salary. And then later on, in the evening, stole the same money back because I needed money to smoke. I smoked out most of my whole salary. She tried me for housebreaking and theft.
Against you?
Against me, yes, my own mother. I was picked up, was held in custody because they couldn't confirm the address. The address now was the exact same place which the complainants had come from, so they couldn't confirm that as my address. So I was held in custody for 7 days. I came out and I had nowhere to stay now. My girlfriend at the time was able to pay for me to stay in a lodge every night. She done it there for about a week, until such time as our own money ran out as well. And then I was again, I was stuck. Now my father, being the type of person he was known throughout the colored communities because he was a gangster. He also lived a life of crime as well too. So I knew a couple of people, a couple of drug bosses that also spent some time with him. And I thought a possibility of them helping me, of giving me some stuff to sell, to not try and look after myself. But whenever I'd ask in times past, no one would give me, out of respect for him. Because they felt it would be disrespectful to give me to work, to give me a consignment to work for them. Excuse me. Out of respect for my father. Because he's also involved in the numbers gang, and there's a unspoken code which they live by, which I'm not too familiar with. Eventually someone managed to give in. Eventually gave in. I went to his door and I begged him. And my mindset at the time, I thought, no, I spent so much money these few years of my life on crack cocaine. I know how much I've seen my friends spend. If I can sell the drug, I could possibly make back for all the time that I've lost. So I started to sell. Everything went well for about the first 3 weeks, and then one evening there was just one left over out of all that sold out, and I thought, no, I can smoke this one, it won't be an issue. So I smoked the one. I cashed up everything, my cash up was 100%, my profit was right. And the next day now, as I was selling, I noticed now, within my mind already I knew that, okay, this is how many I've got left. By the time I had the last 2 left now, I stopped selling for that evening. So I smoked 2 that day. Eventually it progressed and I started to smoke more now every evening. I cash up, I keep some money aside because I knew how quickly I could make the money back. I could make it back the next day with ease. So I'd sell and I was smoking. And then the one time I smoked, I'm not too sure the correct English term, but I can say 1 pack or when now there's a bomb, 1 set, like, you know, because when it comes in sets, I said smoked 1 completely out. The following sets what I done is I halved the size of them so I could cover up what I had smoked. And then I thought to myself, no, if I could do it for the 1 set, I can do it for more. Eventually I smoked out too much that I couldn't cover it. I was owing people money now. These men were looking for me. There was no way I could. And because of the amount of crack cocaine that I consumed, I was so paranoid. I wasn't in my right frame of mind. I couldn't function. So I locked myself away. Because what I do is I sell out in the day and go into a lodge in the evening, and that's how I stayed for about a month or 2. Eventually now, because I was owing people money and so forth, excuse me, like I'm saying, I went in either way, things calmed down, and because I had no money, I stopped smoking a day now. With crack cocaine is one of those drugs where if you don't have money, you don't necessarily have to smoke. But when you have money, the urge comes in. So it's more of a mental battle. It's not like heroin where you've got physical withdrawals. Crack cocaine is more of a mental withdrawal. So, and I stopped smoking for about a month or 2. My mother's sister took me in. I stayed with her for another month, and then I managed to get in a job at a gearbox shop, which is my trade, which I'd learned now over these same amounts of years that I'm talking about. I must say that initially I started working in a workshop, started mopping the floor. By the time progressed, I learned how to build gearboxes. So I started to work. I was earning quite okay at the time, and I got myself a place in a local township just outside the suburb, in a black township. The reason I chose to go and stay there was because I always was able to get along with the black people, but I knew at the same time that the colored people were scared of them. They wouldn't come into the black townships. So I knew the people looking for me wouldn't come and look for me in the township. So I chose to go and stay in the township. And then,
what's the difference between colored people and black people?
I'm not too sure how you see it where you're from. I don't know if you'll say mixed race. Like, I know for myself, when you say colored, it's a mixture of 2 races. And when I say black people, I say like the Zulu people, Zulu speaking people. You understand?
Okay.
So that's, I don't know how much more to explain it. So anyway, everything went pretty well for some time, and then once the money got a bit much again, I thought now I can go and drink. And as time progressed, I went back to my routine of now looking for crack cocaine, and I managed to find it. And then one night I was too high, and I always heard the guys talk about how heroin is a downer, it's a strong downer, crack cocaine is an upper, it's a stimulant, of how also the guys talk about how much better it felt if you smoked the upper and then you smoked the downer. And I was left with the last 20 in my pocket. So I said to myself, no, I'll smoke, but we call it hunger over there. Slavic heroin. I said, no, I'll smoke it now, just this once. So I smoked it, and obviously I liked the feeling. And then the next day I done the same thing, I went and I smoked. So I questioned the guys who smoked, they were in the truck then. I asked them, because the term what we use is called rosto, the withdrawals. So I asked them, how long does it take before one would feel this here? What they said to me was that, no, you could smoke for about a month without actually having the physical withdrawals. But just after a month, stop, take a break, and then you can go back. So I started now to dabble and smoke this heroin now for this month. Till eventually I got to a point now where I had these withdrawals, and now I wasn't smoking for pleasure anymore now. I was smoking now for survival, because it gets you to a point where you can't function. You have joint pains, you have diarrhea, you vomit, you can't think, you can't function like a normal person. You smoke just to be normal, to be able to work, to be able to get up, to be able to carry on like a normal person. It's not about smoking for high anymore now. Smoking just now to survive. You become codependent on the drug almost, you can say. And unfortunately with that as well, somehow it changes the manner in which you think, because so fast the drug becomes the primary, the key thing in your life now. You forget about eating, you forget about taking a bath, all those things lose interest to you. Forget about your physical appearance. You don't want to work anymore automatically. I used to hear the guys talk about how this drug heroin does that to you, and I used to think, it was a joke or something, but I started to experience that. I stopped going to work. I just didn't want to work anymore. I'd rather smoke and steal to smoke. In a matter of 6 months, I lost everything. I sold everything in the place that I was staying. TV, couches, everything up to the cushions. All I was left with was just a mattress. I had no job. Basically, I'm not too sure if there's a term for it back where you're from, but we call it this side, we say a para, a street person.
A para?
A para. Yeah, that's what we call it this side. A parasite. Understand? I become that. My family wanted nothing to do with me, like I was saying, so there was no one I could even call for help. I got a hold of the local church and I told them my situation. They were a bit reluctant to help me, because 2 years prior to that, they had put me in rehab. They had paid some nice money as well for me to stay there. I stayed for 4 months and I came back and I went straight back to the crack cocaine. So they were very reluctant to help me this time, because they felt that I was arrogant and I was prideful when I came out. So they let me be. About another 2 or 3 weeks passed, and then one of the pastors got a hold of me.
One of the pastors?
One of the pastors, yes. He said to me, there's a place called Kwasizabantu Mission. What he said to me was, he said, Evan, we want to take you there so you can go get help. It's not a rehab. You know that you're an intelligent boy, you know the ins and outs of the rehab, you could probably teach to someone. But we're hoping that if you could spend some alone time with God, that you'll be able to set you free. Since it was a 3-week program, so I agreed I'd stay for 3 weeks only. They came and they dropped me. Time progressed and it was a bit different to the way things worked to the church. I was back at home, so I was a bit reluctant to fall in line. Nevertheless,
so you stayed in here for 3 weeks?
I thought I would only stay for 3 weeks, because the pastor said to me that it was a 3-week program. So that's what we agreed on. Because I also wanted, I said my job and so forth. They said no, just go and stay for the 3 weeks and you can come back after the 3 weeks, you can continue working and so forth. So that's what I agreed on when I came. Things changed when I was there, however. I got here and we spoke about counseling and confession of sin and so forth. One of the pastors told me of the mission. He explained to me that it's not a rehab, but a restoration center. And they had hoped that if I could spend some alone time with God, that He'd be able to deliver me. So they brought me up here. The back of my head, I knew that I was coming for a 3-week program. However, as time progressed, I ended up staying a bit longer.
So what did you think of what you heard here? Bringing everything into light, confession of sin.
At first, I was a bit reluctant, honestly, because the local church where I come from back at home, in terms of confession of sin, they teach a bit differently, you understand? But my counselor at the time, Opayan, he explained it to me, and then he also showed me some scriptures in the Bible as well, and it made sense as well to me at the time. And so I was submissive and I followed. And then after the 3 weeks was done, I felt I needed to stay longer because there was other problems that I started to see that I needed to deal with. Some people were getting sent home after the program was done, but by God's grace, I stayed longer. A long story short, they started to ask me to help out with registers, and then opening and locking of the block where we stayed down in the bottom, and then helping out a bit more in depth with security matters, so that I can head the security.
You have the security.
Yes, I'm in charge now today.
But let's go back a little bit. So did you feel that confessing your sins?
I'm getting to that. That's how I'm talking about security. You understand? And initially, that's why, like I'm saying, I'm talking about security and upholding the law and so forth, because now I'm someone who has to do that. Do you understand? Initially, I started to confess sins, but you think about, we deal with like the robbing and the stealing and those things, and we thought that was the issue. But upon time, sitting, would walk right back to when I was 6, the night my father was arrested. And like I'm saying, I went to rehab before, and they deal with your triggers and so forth, and people, places and things, but they deal only with the fruits of the addiction.
The fruits, yes.
You understand? And you can take off all the apples of an apple tree, but in season it'll bear fruits, apples, okay? And throughout my life, while I played this ping pong of going clean and getting clean and going back to the drugs, because I never ever got to the root as to why, what made me choose to live a life I loved. And starting to confess my sin now and confess my inner feelings in my heart, even aside now, just from just sin itself, but how I feel and how I see things, I worked it way back, and I found that it was the night that my father got arrested, because the police were very hostile the night that they came in. And as a little boy at the time, I never understood. And I also, something else came back to my memory when I was about 9. We were asked to write an essay in school about the police and how they help our country, and I wrote completely opposite. I hate them, I want to kill them, they took my father from me. So within me already, within my subconscious, there was this thing that I have to go against the law. And I don't know if you remember, I did say earlier, the initial addiction for me was doing the wrong thing. So
you wanted to do the wrong thing.
Yes.
Just spirit of rebellion against the law.
Yes. And as much as the drugs became a problem later, the drugs wasn't the problem. It was part of the problem at a later stage. It was the rebellion, wanting to go against the law, to do the wrong thing. That was the issue. And only the confessing and sitting with my counsel that I learned to work with that. And then many a time they ask us to write our qualifications, because maybe there'll be job openings in the mission or so forth, for those who need. And I wrote a good couple of times what I was qualified to do and so forth and what I've done, and nothing ever came up. I thought I'd end up in a mechanics workshop, maybe nearby Aquila as a millwright, but it wasn't God's plan. He knew already why He chose to let me start with registers, keys, and now security, because now I can see things from a different perspective. And this has helped me now deal with that, do you understand? So now, instead of now wanting to be a criminal, now it's changed the way I see things completely. And I thank God for that, because now that inner that bitterness and that hate that I had for people uphold the law now. I won't say it's completely gone. God's still working with me every day. He works and he works, but it's not what it was before. The fact that now how angry I can get for people doing the wrong thing, that's not actually what now I deal with now is now to keep myself calm, because now I can't stand people who do the wrong thing anymore. I can't stand people who steal from others, who take from innocent people. I can't anymore, and yet I was someone who done it there before. It brought me joy, it brought me pleasure to hurt the weak, to take from the weak. You know, I mean, when we've got minors in our block now, underage kids that come in for help as well. So when their parents go from the office, they tell them, go down and look for Evan Christmas. You know, the aunties in yourself, they know that the kids will be safe with me. And the extent that I would go to keep those boys safe, I put myself on the line. But it wasn't like that a few years ago. So I thank God for what He's done in my life, for what He's still doing. And yeah, you know, I always say to the guys, you know, I look back and I never thought I'd be here, you know.
So you've been here 10 months.
10 months, yes, sir.
Now, when you confessed your sins, as you confessed the things that you thought were wrong with you, you've seen deeper things that needed to be confessed, and you've seen deeper things that needed to be confessed. Did you feel any relief from confessing, or you just did it because they told you to do it?
No. Initially, I just done it because I was told to, but I started to feel deliverance thereafter. I started to see the change within myself. I started to see now how, if it was certain things like vulgarity or speaking profanely, when I brought it into light and I asked for prayer, now it's just like it just slipped off. It just slips away. Right. You understand?
So you don't feel like you're using your strength to constrain yourself and not sin. You feel
anymore.
You're free from it.
Not anymore, no. Not anymore, no. I do feel as though I'm free from it, yes.
Yeah, that's important. All right, Evan.
Yes,
we
sir.
could go on for hours, I assume. You probably have many stories from that you've seen, but thank you very much for taking the time and sharing your testimony. I wish you God's blessing in your walk with the Lord, and to
I hope you viewers understand me. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, well, it is a different accent, so you have to listen in, but it's still English.
It's still English.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you.
Программа «Вечерний эфир». Время теплого общения и размышления о Боге.